The title of today's speech is Meeting the Nation's Needs, which reminds me of a well-known headline that appeared during the Second World War, which stated that the Admiralty's policy with regard to Atlantic convoys has been changed. Women's clothing will be held up until the needs of the armed services have been met. But these are more than just the armed services. James York is going to tell us about the nation's needs and how they are being met by that magnificent construction firm of Costain, of which he is the community relations manager. He has many difficult negotiations to perform, and he is very fond of lawyers and accountants. James, it's over to you.
Thank you for that introduction. If any of you are lawyers and accountants,
we all are.
Enough said. What I thought I'd do is just give you a brief introduction to Costain if you don't know about them. I'm sure you all do. A little bit about their business model, but to talk about one of their major clients at the moment, Crossrail, and the work that we're doing with Crossrail, and in particular in Paddington Station. And there are a few surprises.
No, Bruce. Oh, tea day.
It's just nice and dodgy music. Quite substantial history of delivering some of the more substantial national needs of the past. But looking forwards, our business strategy has changed somewhat from a traditional design and build construction company and to one looking at delivering solutions for its clients. So whether that's through consultancy roles or through operations and maintenance as well. So as a business, we thrive on repeat order business. We work with a very narrow customer base, I believe 49 customers that we work with, We don't chase work outside of that very narrow base, and we work with these customers to deliver solutions to meet their needs. A lot of these customers are the lifeblood of Britain, so it could be the Highways Agency, could be Network Rail, it could be one of the utilities companies as well. So today I thought I'd talk to you about Crossrail. I'm sure you're probably all aware of Crossrail, and these tunnel boring machines are making their way through London as we speak, and the benefits that Crossrail will provide will be significantly improved connectivity from Shenfield right the way through to Maidenhead. Crossrail for Costain has been rather fruitful. As you can see there, got a whole list of Crossrail contracts, which makes us the most successful construction company with Crossrail. We've got over £400 million worth of work for ourselves in joint ventures that probably equates to over £1 billion worth of work. So significant for us. Some of our competitors, you can see here, haven't done quite so well as us. It is worth saying that all of these projects that we're working on are in joint venture, and the reason for that is Crossrail were very explicit that anyone working for them will be in joint venture to ensure that the public purse is spread as far as possible across the construction industry. So we are working with Skanska, a Swedish company who are very similar in culture to us, so we work very well together. So if you're not aware, Crossrail is a £15.9 billion investment, so significant investment, and will significantly improve journey times across central London. For an example, from Heathrow through to Liverpool Street or Canary Wharf can be done in under half an hour. At the moment, Heathrow to Paddington is about half an hour, and you'll be able to do this journey on your Oyster card rather than having to buy a ticket as well. So it's cost savings for customers as well. So you can see it links key business areas, but one of the major key points of this is it brings an additional 1 million people within an hour of the centre of London. So that's significant benefit. There's a spread benefit of £40 billion worth of investment generated from this £15.9 billion investment. So you see there's 28 stations, 11 reconstructions. So of the spur from Liverpool Street to Shenfield, construction work is in the pipeline, will be coming in the future. That contract hasn't been let yet, but we put a solid tender in for that, so we're very well forward with the working on construction. But in principle, in the centre of London, there are tunnels, so 2 tunnel boring machines working each tunnel, running straight through central London. So from Royal Oak, which is just to the west of Paddington, and running straight through the centre of London at the moment, progressing well. Although it wasn't our project, so you have to be impressed with the engineering at the top of Court Road. The tunnel boring machine went through about 70 centimetres above the Northern Line, whilst trains were still in operation.
Did you say centimetres?
Here.
Oh,
Can't hear very well.
we can't hear you.
Can't hear, sorry.
We can get that thing turned on.
The tunnel boring machine ran approximately 70 centimetres above the Northern Line at top of Court Road. So incredibly close. It's quite a scary thought. One wrong calculation and that could be very, very bad. So the new tunnel Crossrail is 6.2 metres diameter, and that gives you a bit of an idea in comparison to the Channel Tunnel that it's getting on to that sort of scale, but actually is much larger than the current tube lines as well. So this will significantly improve ventilation on the tubes. sort of glossing over sort of the scheme-specific stuff. In Paddington, we're contracted to build this new station here, which is adjacent to the Paddington mainline station. It's a £270 million contract. Started in February 2012, and we're due to hand the new station over in September 2018. Although I think Crossrail are trying to push that to 2017. That's another story. So Paddington is, from an engineering perspective, a place that we're all particularly proud to be working. Paddington Station is a Brunel structure, first constructed in 1846, relocated to its current location in 1854. So this is a Brunel structure here, and actually it looks very similar to what it does today. So that presents us with a massive project risk. Paddington Station is a Grade 1 listed building, and obviously working so close to that, we have to be incredibly careful with what we do, especially given that we're digging an enormous hole right next to it. So this is Eastbourne Terrace. This is the road adjacent to Paddington Station. The reason I put this picture in was when we closed Eastbourne Terrace to begin construction in February last year, the view was actually very similar to that. Okay, no horse and cart, that was buses and taxis, but actually the layout was very similar. The buildings are still as they are now, so it's quite an interesting view. So what we're building is this, you see that's the Paddington Station on your left hand side, there's this box underneath the road, so it's 250 metres long, 30 metres wide, 30 metres deep. As you can see, that's about a 250,000 metres cubed excavation. So if you go on approximate mass of about 2.5 metres cubed to a tonne, sorry, the other way around, 2.5 tonnes to a metres cubed, that's quite a significant excavation we've got there. So there's a nature reserve, RSPB nature reserve called Wallasey Island. It's off the South Essex coast. So the nature reserve is out in the estuary, and there's had issues with coastal erosion, so it's gradually going under. So all of the excavated material from Crossrail, including the tunnels and the other stations, is going to this nature reserve to raise its level, and then they're able to prolong its life. To be able to get a project like this off the ground, Crossrail had to make 140 legal commitments with its various neighbours. Some of these are quite arduous, some of them more trivial, to be able to get the project off the ground. So that might mean that Crossrail needed to guarantee a noise mitigation package should the noise get above a certain level. So that could mean that properties are eligible for noise insulation or new windows, that kind of thing. And we have about 3,500 people looking down into the construction site at any one time. I'll show you shortly a picture of the site, and you will realise that actually we are surrounded on all four sides by multinational corporations who, some of them are engineering firms and believe that they know how to do it better than us. So that in itself presents us challenges as well. So some of the interfaces, this is the box in purple. The tunnels will run through in parallel. They run underneath the district and circle line at the end, so not quite as close as the northern line, but still reasonably close, still within a couple of metres. There's currently talk at the moment as well to create a link across underneath Paddington Station to the Bakerloo line, which is on the upper right-hand corner of this screen. That again presents its challenges by tunnelling underneath Paddington Station, which is very well listed.
What is bomb gap building be?
Sorry, yes. I'll go back. You see the building stops there and is much lower here. That was, it used to be the sign pipe all the way along. The Second World War took care of that, so there's a bit of a gap in the building. So, as I as I mentioned, that's our construction site in white, and all around us we have these multinational corporations who present us a significant challenge. And a great deal of my time is spent talking to these companies, making sure that we live up to the agreements that have been made in planning, and also to ensure that there's continuity for their business as well, so they don't end up paying compensation. So that's a plan of Paddington Station, as mentioned. In that whole footprint, that's a Grade 1 listed building. One of the things that we need to do to safeguard our project and also safeguard the building is to install monitoring points over the building, so we're able to determine any movement of our building at any given time. There's a quite a clever system in place where if the building even moves by a fraction of a millimetre, alerts are sent to various members of the team via their mobile phone, by text message. Emails are sent out to a wider pool of people within the office as well. So we probably have about 25 people monitoring properties and buildings in the local area on shift at any one time. And that's every day of the year, 365 days a year. So that's quite an extensive, quite an expensive process, but absolutely necessary, especially given that about 2 metres away from the big hole that we're digging is Queen Victoria's private waiting room in Paddington Station, which is not Grade 1 listed, it's Grade 1 Star listed, which is the highest classification you can get. So we're talking, if we even slightly damage that, we're talking fines, personal fines, in excess of £30,000 and a trip to prison as well for the director. So this is really scary stuff. So we've carried out assessments, calculations, and we're expecting settlement in the region of around 2 to 10 millimetres because of the excavation. Settlement in the ground, which is, it sounds high, but in brick structures actually that can be quite easily tolerated. So it's as long as within those parameters it's fine, and as long as it doesn't move all of that at once, it will be fine. If it moves that much at once, we've got a big problem. So our high-level construction programme, I'll gloss over this, but really the headline figure is that we need to reopen the road on the 14th of February 2014, and then we'll continue work underneath the road. Our completion date is September 2018. So just run quickly through the journey. 13th of February last year we closed Eastbourne Terrace and very quickly ran into a few problems. One of our competitors had been in the road for 2 years previously re-diverting utilities, so when we landed we would have we should have smooth digging and no obstructions, but as you can see there we found utilities cables for the local hospital, for the train station, and about 10,000 local residents as well, so obviously they hadn't done their job. So that added 6 months to the beginning of our construction programme because we had to do that. But we also had to remove some ground obstruction, so using this auger rig here, Eastbourne Terrace was built up on Second World War bomb demolition field, so we needed to use the auger to break up these large lumps of concrete. We then had to painstakingly remove a number of these pieces of the street furniture and the old canopy. A lot of these dated back to the 1850s and they had to be carefully removed by hand. The canopy in the top left, top right here, had asbestos, so that added an extra challenge to this heritage piece. All of these have been taken away for storage. The railings will come back into the final scheme, and the trusses from the roof will be taken away to the museum. But this one added an extra dimension to our construction project. The basement of Paddington Station by the Hilton Hotel protruded underneath the road by about 3 metres, and there was a clash of about 1.5 metres with the design of our new station. So this presents you 2 options. You either go back to the drawing board and redesign the station, making it slightly narrower, which is already an incredibly narrow station, or you come to an agreement with the owner of the basement and you chop off part of their basement and build a new wall. So of course we took that option. So you can see here on the left, excavating down about 4 metres and then refacing this, brick structure here with reinforced concrete face. So this work was really our first piece of major construction, and incredibly challenging, bearing in mind that there are still people within the hotel above. London's busiest Hilton hotel. They tell us it runs on about 99% occupancy the whole time. So for us, that was a real challenge. So the next port of call is to actually construct this box. So we constructed what we call diaphragm walls, and they run around the perimeter, so 250 metres round and 30 metres deep into it. These are constructed out of 165 individual reinforced concrete panels, excavated by one of these rigs. They're about £3 million each. We had 3 of them on site. It's just got a clamshell jaw which digs down in between 2 shallow concrete guides that we constructed in the ground. It took us about 11 months to complete this one activity. Okay, you can see 3 sections of reinforcement and 13 tonnes each. In places, again, only a few metres away from a Grade 1 listed building. So the skill of the operator was particularly impressive. That archway on the building there, that is the door into Queen Victoria's private waiting room. So, massive risk. Also, we then had to construct the columns that run down the centre of the station and will support the new roof. There are 51 of these, 60 metres deep. So using another large auger rig and installing those. A massive challenge to us is logistics. Our construction site is incredibly narrow. When it comes to February next year, it will be even narrower. But to give you a bit of a feel, last year we had 12,000 deliveries coming into our construction site. And Crossrail has particularly strict code of conduct for its vehicles. They have to be compliant with reversing cameras and additional mirrors, and also has to have a warning beacon to protect cyclists. If they want to ride up the inside of the vehicle, they'll know if the vehicle is about to turn left. So we had less than 1% non-compliance to this, and just to give you an idea as to how strictly this is enforced, it does not matter what's being delivered, it doesn't matter how critical it is to the programme, if that vehicle is not compliant, it will be rejected. And we have lost time because of that, but it absolutely is the right thing to do. I believe our supply chain have got the message. So constructing of the roof. So we've built the box around the outside. We then begin to construct the concrete roof slab. So you're probably thinking you haven't actually started digging yet, and that's correct. And as you see, the roof slab progresses through the construction site, and the gap in the middle is the mole hole where we start to begin excavation. At the lower end of the site, we then decided to come back up and reconstruct the road as well for February next year. So to give you a better idea, this is taken last week. This is the construction of the roof so far. So it's a heavily reinforced structure. It's about 1.5 meters thick with some pretty hefty steel bars. And guys and pouring concrete there. So our next milestone is to commence the excavation underneath the roof, and we are due to start that next week. But the logic to that is that we'll excavate from the surface until it's deep enough to put an excavator down into the hole, and as we progress down, you'll increase your plant. It'll always be lifted out from the surface, as you can see here. Then we work our way down to the tunnels. So the 2 tunnels passed through late last year and early this year. So our significant challenge is to get down to the tunnels where we can break in and then begin the construction of platforms. So this gives you a bit of a logic from section view. As we progress our way down in red, those are the tubular columns that we installed. We then have to put in these, in blue, the props. So it prevents deflection of the side walls of the station. And those remain until we start to construct the -1 level and -2 level of the station. As you can see there, we're able then to take away the props. Get down into the tunnels, that you can see there. We then start to fit out the station. So this is when all of the big plant, all the ventilation, all the power comes in, contractor will come in and fit out the platforms, lay the tracks. To get us to February next year, politically it's a big milestone. We need to open the road in February 14, otherwise our name will be Malcolm of Westminster and Crossrail as well. We need to, this is the roof slab that we've just seen a picture of, put a waterproof membrane down, lay the services, backfill it, reconstruct a new pavement, lay the road, and then install the hoarding to be able to reopen the road. Now, we've got about 6-7 months to go, and the pressure's really on. We really are under the cosh at the moment. So I think there's going to be a lot of late nights spent to ensure that we hit that target date. And that is what it will look like once we're finished. So just giving you a few of the artist's impressions of the new station. You've seen that one. Looking down, see it steps into the new station. There's glass canopy along the top. So the idea of the new station is to provide as much natural light as possible by being in an open space. Be significantly more ventilated as well. So it should have a really nice feel. And actually, from the inside, it will look very similar to the Canary Wharf Jubilee Line station, with the exception of the natural light. So as with, I guess, most construction companies now, health and safety is incredibly important and something that we're incredibly proud of. Our achievements, achieving a ROSPA Gold Award for our contributions to safety for the last 2 years. So that's a massive team effort and something that we instill right the way through our supply chain, and is an obligation on everybody. So at least once a week, every member of our team has to go out on site. No matter what their profession is, they go out on site so they fully understand where they're putting the men at the coalface and understand the implications of their decisions. Also spend a lot of time working with our communities as well to make sure that we put things back, because actually we're an uninvited guest in the communities that we work, so it's important that our time spent is not entirely negative and actually we can provide some positives as well. So some of the things that we've been doing is redecorating the local school, guided reading programs at schools, cooking at homeless shelters, and redecorating or redoing the gardens at a local nursery which were ransacked by local gangs. And like you guys, we're very keen to raise money, and last year we rode from Shenfield to Maidenhead, raising £6,500, so following the new route of Crossrail. That was a sore day the day after. Those are very sort of quick whistle-stop tour to know that I had a very big time slot of construction work that we're doing specifically in Paddington, but Crossrail as well. Any questions?
You mentioned earlier on the rail aspect. You've been talking primarily about construction work in the centre. What's actually happening between Shenfield and Liverpool Street, for example?
So the Crossrail line will utilise the existing tracks. There is some work that needs to be done to increase capacity, but the majority of the work will be refurbishing stations.
Right, okay. Where would be existing, where could you be increasing capacity, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. So in effect, it's going to be more traffic on the existing line?
I believe that the local service from Liverpool Street to Shenfield will be replaced by Crossrail. But I don't want to be quoted on that, but that's my belief.
There's various pinch points that are being eradicated and various crossover points. The works plans are already in the planning process, and those works are going to be starting in the next 12 months.
Okay. Did you come across any or many World War II bombs in construction?
Not yet.
Still hear about it.
Spent ones as well.
Dropped them.
most of yours.
We have archaeologists engaged with the project, and whenever we start a new excavation, they have to come and witness the digs. We're more concerned that actually when we get down to the final depths that we might come across something sort of more significant, because Eastbourne Terrace is a dry riverbed, so we could come across some sort of archaeological remains. We're hoping that we don't.
We can say you don't want that. Just to diverse a little bit from that, I think around here Costain is probably remembered as an organisation, a massive organisation for building houses. Now, what I gathered from your presentation today, you're basically civil engineering now. You don't have anything to do with that side of life?
Corporately, we're engineering solutions now.
Yeah. So you're out of
So our core business has moved to a very narrow sort of area of expertise. And what we're trying to do is offer more consultancy support for the operations and maintenance, because actually that's where the bigger profit margins are. There's a lot more risk in traditional design and build construction. Although we'll maintain that core business, we are looking to have an equally bigger business with operations and maintenance and consulting.
Another question, but an observation. Seeing that the amount of money that's being spent on this project, I was ready to think what it's going to cost the commuter from Shenfield to Liverpool Street when this is completed, because it's slightly more bad. I mean, when they first started out from Shenfield, when they started to build out there, people moved out because the houses were cheaper and the ratio of the fares weren't too high. That has changed over a number of years, with the properties in Shenfield and the Lion District becoming more expensive. I shudder to think what it's going to bloody well be when you finish this lot. I doubt whether people will be able to afford to travel in the street.
Well, I believe the price is not linked to the cost of construction, because the price will actually come from taxes rather than a levy. Might not be popular, but but they are looking to use the Oyster cards for this, so you might find that actually it might just be the cost of a zone 6, and maybe have an extra zone on for that. So
well, 6 only used to go as far as Harold Wood, I think, at one stage, because they did all the fiddling about, because Romford used to be in 5, I think, originally, and then they changed that to 6. First knows what it's going to be like. I think thanks for us to retire.
Use a Boris Pike.
Yeah.
to give you some sort of feel, it's going out to tender at the moment. They're looking for operators. But the Heathrow Express is a key example. From Heathrow to Paddington is about £29 a journey. I think they're looking to close, well, they'll be looking for compensation before they do, I'm sure, but because you probably will be able to go from Heathrow to Paddington for about £3 on your Oyster card. It might take you a couple of minutes longer because it will stop everywhere. But
Thank you.
Well, if there are no more questions, fascinating subject.
very good.
Yes, very good.
Unbelievable. Peter, would like to give the photos thanks, please.
If you get up.
It's getting more difficult. Mr. President, fellows, thank you, James, for the very good talk. I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm pleased that you haven't found any bombs, and I'm pleased that you're not going underground in Upminster. So,
Yes.
thank you again for your talk. Thank you very much indeed.
I have one other task for you to perform. There are very few people that have been tempted, as we discussed earlier, but would you mind trying the rest? Just thank you.
Number 95.
Oh, damn it! 96.
He's just come back on holiday.
Come back to Sweden.
He's not entitled to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of our